Imagine a world where chemotherapy is no longer the first weapon in the fight against the deadliest forms of breast cancer, where a diagnosis of triple-negative breast cancer, one of oncology's most feared labels, is no longer a herald of limited hope, but the start of a journey with far better odds and fewer devastating side effects. Today, we stand on the edge of that world. A new drug, Trodelvy, is not just making headlines. It's threatening to flip the entire standard of care upside down, and the ripple effects could reshape the global cancer economy forever. But is this the dawn of a new era in cancer treatment, or another promising technology facing the hard wall of reality? Triple-negative breast cancer, or TNBC, is a phrase that sends chills down the spines of doctors, patients, and researchers. It's infamous for its aggressiveness, its rapid spread, and most of all, a brutal lack of effective therapies. Unlike other breast cancers, TNBC lacks three key receptors: estrogen, progesterone, and HER2, that most treatments target. For decades, that meant one thing: chemotherapy. Old, blunt, and toxic, chemotherapy has been both a lifeline and a curse, often extending survival at the cost of severe side effects. But now, the story is changing, and the hero on the horizon is a new kind of drug called an antibody-drug conjugate, or ADC. Trodelvy, known scientifically as sacituzumab govitecan, is leading the charge. Instead of blasting all rapidly dividing cells, Trodelvy operates with sniper-like precision. It attaches to a molecule called TROP2, found abundantly on TNBC cells, and delivers a toxic payload directly into the cancer, sparing much of the healthy tissue. This targeted approach promises not just better efficacy, but a revolution in patient quality of life. To understand just how radical this shift is, we need to look at the landscape TNBC patients have faced for years. Standard chemotherapy regimens can leave patients immunocompromised, fatigued, nauseous, and even with lasting neurological damage. In many countries, limited access to newer therapies has meant that survival rates remain distressingly low, especially for metastatic cases, where the cancer has already spread. Statistics from real-world studies paint a daunting picture. The median overall survival for metastatic TNBC patients treated with traditional options hovers around 11 months. And for many, the toll on daily life is almost as high a price as the threat to life itself. Enter Trodelvy. In global trials and real-world settings, it has shown the ability to extend progression-free survival, meaning the cancer stops advancing for longer, by several months compared to the current gold standard. In the pivotal ASCENT-04 trial, when Trodelvy was paired with the immunotherapy drug Keytruda in patients whose tumors exhibited the PD-L1 biomarker, progression-free survival jumped to 11.2 months, compared to just 7.8 for Keytruda with chemotherapy. Those numbers may seem small in absolute terms, but in the ruthless mathematics of late-stage cancer, they represent precious time, more birthdays, more weddings, more chance for new options to emerge. Trodelvy isn't just another treatment, it's a game-changer, said Dr. Hope Rugo of UCSF, one of the world's foremost breast cancer experts. For patients with TNBC, it's the difference between spending their last months in a hospital bed or living life on their own terms. For pharmaceutical companies, the stakes couldn't be higher. Not only is TNBC a leading cause of cancer death among young women globally, but the current market for chemotherapy drugs is worth billions. A therapy that can reduce or even replace first-line chemotherapy could shift massive sums and force entrenched players to adapt overnight. The science behind Trodelvy and drugs like it, antibody-drug conjugates, has advanced at breakneck speed in the last decade. Early ADCs struggled with unpredictable side effects and limited efficacy. Their toxic payloads sometimes missed the mark, damaging healthy cells. But new generations, like Trodelvy and its closest competitor, Dato-DXd, have refined both their targeting mechanisms and their chemical linkers, resulting in treatments that are more powerful and safer than ever before. This progress did not happen in a vacuum. The relentless search for solutions to TNBC led researchers to TROP2, a protein found at extra high levels on many TNBC tumors. By linking a semi-synthetic version of the potent chemotherapy drug SN38 to an antibody that recognizes TROP2, Trodelvy essentially weaponizes the body's own immune recognition tools. Once Trodelvy locks onto a cancer cell, it's internalized, and the toxic cargo is released right where it's needed, devastating the tumor from within. The recent excitement reached a fever pitch at the 2025 American Society of Clinical Oncology, or ASCO, annual meeting. There, Gilead Sciences, the maker of Trodelvy, unveiled new data that prompted leading oncologists to use a phrase not uttered lightly: practice-changing. According to Dr. Sarah Tallaney of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, the ASCENT-04 trial has given us statistically significant and, more importantly, clinically meaningful benefits. The transformation is not just happening in the lab. Regulators across the globe are taking notice. Trodelvy is already approved for use in over 50 countries, primarily as a second-line treatment for patients whose cancers have returned or stopped responding to initial therapies. Now, with evidence from ASCENT-04 and other ongoing studies, Gilead is aiming for first-line approval, meaning Trodelvy would become the go-to option immediately after diagnosis, not just when other approaches fail. As DrugWatch analyst Alaric Diarmid notes, Gilead's confidence is clear. They're moving at full speed to regulatory agencies, betting that oncologists everywhere will want Trodelvy in their arsenal from day one. But with every leap forward comes a new set of questions, and not everyone is convinced the battle is already won. Let's look at the main conflict brewing beneath the optimism. First, while Trodelvy's benefits are real, the challenges are formidable. The drug's adverse event profile, though better than traditional chemotherapy in many respects, is not without its own risks. In major trials, over half of patients experience severe neutropenia, a dangerous drop in a key type of white blood cell. Diarrhea and leukopenia were also common, albeit more manageable. For healthcare systems, particularly in low-resource settings, managing these side effects could still mean hospital visits, additional medications, and careful patient monitoring. And there's another issue: accessibility. Advanced antibody-drug conjugates like Trodelvy are extraordinarily complex to manufacture, making them expensive and potentially out of reach for many patients globally. The irony is bitter. Just as we develop more precise weapons, the battle to deliver them to everyone who needs them grows even harder. For patients in lower-income countries or regions without robust insurance coverage, the promise of a chemo-free future might remain just a promise. Competition is also intensifying. Dato-DXd, developed by Daiichi Sankyo and AstraZeneca, recently won FDA approval for a different subset of breast cancer and is now eyeing the TNBC space. Astellas is investing hundreds of millions in novel ADCs targeting different cancer signatures, and GSK is returning to the oncology arena with pipeline revivals. The ADC gold rush is on, and every firm wants a slice. This isn't just about who gets to sell the most drugs. It's about setting the new global standard for care. Should Trodelvy become the first-line choice, it will redefine the entire economics of breast cancer treatment, affecting everything from insurance policies to R&D budgets, and even the fate of legacy chemotherapy manufacturers. Even the scientific community is divided about the long-term impact. Some experts worry that, like all cancer therapies before it, Trodelvy and its counterparts could face eventual resistance, as tumors adapt and find ways around the new drugs. The challenge, then, is to stay one step ahead, combining ADCs with immunotherapies like Keytruda, personalizing regimens based on each patient's molecular profile, and using artificial intelligence to predict which strategies will work best for each case. "We are at a crossroads," says Dr. Sylvia Adams of NYU Langone. Sacituzumab govitecan has redefined the landscape for advanced TNBC, but redefinition doesn't mean we've reached the destination. Questions about resistance, access, and sustainability will determine how much this revolution truly delivers. Meanwhile, patients and their families watch and wait. For some, Trodelvy's arrival means a new lease on life. For others, the cost or lack of local approval leaves them stuck with older, harsher therapies. And in boardrooms from New York to Tokyo, executives are recalculating. Can the future of oncology really be built around these futuristic, bespoke treatments? Or will the system push back, clinging to the status quo of chemotherapy and incremental change? As pharmaceutical giants race regulators, insurers debate coverage, and doctors weigh hope against risk, one burning question hangs over the industry, the markets, and every family whose life has been upended by TNBC. Will Trodelvy and the ADC revolution truly make chemotherapy a thing of the past for the most dangerous breast cancer? Or is this breakthrough still just a dream for all but a privileged few? So, as momentum gathers behind Trodelvy and its competitors, it's time to look ahead, beyond today's headlines, into what the next decade could bring for millions confronting triple-negative breast cancer. Are we on the brink of a global shift away from old-school chemotherapy, or will unforeseen barriers keep the revolution at bay? Let's imagine the path forward. On one side is genuine medical promise. Trodelvy, a TROP2-directed antibody-drug conjugate, has already redefined expectations for late-stage TNBC, a cancer subtype notorious for shrugging off most treatments. Experts like Dr. Sylvia Adams from NYU Langone declared, "Sacituzumab govitecan has redefined the treatment landscape for metastatic TNBC. But in medicine, potential is just the first act. The next act belongs to real-world impact." Gilead's chief medical officer, Dr. Dietmar Berger, stated recently, "We foresee broad first-line use of Trodelvy based on the latest data. Their confidence is rooted in numbers. In the ASCENT-04 trial, combination therapy with Trodelvy and Keytruda stretched progression-free survival to 11.2 months, compared to 7.8 months for the old standard. That's time that matters, hope made tangible." Now imagine this scenario playing out in clinics worldwide. For patients, it could mean fewer hair-raising side effects, less time in the infusion chair, more time at home with family. Many oncologists, like Dr. Hope Rugo at UCSF, are inspired. We're not just adding months to life, we're improving quality of life in ways that really matter to patients. But every revolution faces resistance, sometimes literally. The cancer battlefield is shifting, but tumor cells are infamous for adapting. Already, researchers are closely tracking signs that some cancers can become less sensitive to ADCs like Trodelvy over time. Scientists are now racing to decode the molecular escape hatches these cells use. The future may hinge on finding the right combinations, pairing Trodelvy with immune therapies, or introducing new ADCs targeting different tumor markers, like Dato-DXd or Astellas' newly acquired CLDN19.2 agent. Competition is heating up. GSK has roared back onto the oncology stage, with Blenrep outperforming therapies in myeloma trials. AstraZeneca, Merck, Daiichi Sankyo, they're all chasing the next big breakthrough. In the coming years, expect a flood of new data, head-to-head trials, and perhaps the holy grail, cures for subgroups of patients who today face only palliative options. Let's not underestimate the obstacles. Cost is a looming shadow. These next-generation therapies are expensive to develop and manufacture, and global health systems don't always move quickly to reimburse them. Will Trodelvy's price tag limit access, especially in lower-income countries? That's a hard reality we can't ignore. Advocacy groups and policymakers must work hand-in-hand with industry to avoid deepening inequalities. There are also safety issues yet to be fully solved. While Trodelvy's targeted approach means less collateral damage than classic chemo, not all side effects are gone. The risk of severe neutropenia, dangerously low white blood cell counts, remains. The ASCENT trials reported grade 3 or higher neutropenia in over half of patients. Serious diarrhea and leukopenia follow close behind. Monitoring, early intervention, and smart patient selection will all be critical for safe, widespread use. But as we imagine this future, opportunity glows on the horizon. AI is being recruited to rapidly match patients with the right treatment. Liquid biopsies and advanced molecular profiling will soon allow oncologists to pick out who's most likely to respond to a given ADC, turning one-size-fits-all cancer therapy into precision medicine at last. In major centers, combination regimens are already being tested. Trodelvy plus immune checkpoint inhibitors like Keytruda, or new ADCs paired with emerging agents that disarm resistance pathways. Picture a world where chemotherapy isn't the default, but the backup. Where triple negative no longer means triple locked, where even the most aggressive tumors, once seemingly invincible, have multiple Achilles heels to aim at. Of course, no one drug will erase TNBC from existence. The future will be a mosaic, some patients responding brilliantly to ADCs like Trodelvy, others to immunotherapy, some best served by combinations we haven't yet dreamed up. For each person, the best course won't be dictated by a drug company's marketing or an insurance code, but by deep, real-time analysis of their tumor's unique biology. So what does this all mean for you, for anyone facing or fearing breast cancer, or anyone who loves someone at risk? First, informed optimism. The story of Trodelvy is a lesson in how decades of basic science, antibody engineering, cancer genomics, drug delivery, can finally meet at the bedside and make a real difference. It's proof that catching the next breakthrough early could truly change the course of a disease. Second, the importance of advocacy and awareness. New treatments only change lives if patients and doctors know about them. If you or a loved one is diagnosed with TNBC, ask your cancer team about clinical trials and the latest guideline updates. Don't assume chemo is the only answer. Many patients today are living longer, more fulfilling lives because they pushed for a second opinion or asked about emerging options. Third, prepare for a more personalized era of medicine. Increasingly, your cancer treatment will depend not just on the organ involved, but on molecular features, receptors, gene mutations, protein markers like TROP2 or PDL1. That means keeping copies of your pathology reports, being ready to discuss next-generation sequencing, and staying curious about what's new. For policymakers and caregivers, the push for fair access must continue. Miracle drugs are meaningless if they never reach those who need them. Think creatively. Pilot programs, support for biosimilar ADCs, funds to help with travel or lodging for patients enrolling in trials. The revolution is only real if it's global. Now let's address the question that set this whole story in motion. Will Trodelvy and similar ADCs truly replace chemotherapy across the world, or will obstacles block this revolution from reaching everyone? Here's what the science, the experts, and the real-world experience suggest. Chemotherapy is no longer the unchallenged king for triple-negative breast cancer. It's being overtaken, line by line, by targeted antibody-drug conjugates with better outcomes and better quality of life. But for now, it's a revolution with boundaries. In the wealthiest countries, where regulators move fast and insurance covers cutting-edge care, ADCs like Trodelvy are poised to become the new standard, especially for patients who test positive for markers like TROP2 or PDL1. In these settings, chemo is already being demoted to Plan B, a backup, not a starting point. Yet in many parts of the world, cost, supply chain snags, and slow regulatory adoption mean that chemotherapy will remain the mainstay in the short to medium term. The global picture is uneven, and that could last for years, unless governments, industry, and nonprofits act boldly to close the gap. Resistance, too, is a moving target. Even the best ADCs will need boosters, a new generation of agents, smarter diagnostics, and combinations as cunning as the cancer they're fighting. But the genie isn't going back in the bottle. The age of smart, targeted therapies for even the toughest breast cancers is here, and it's only getting started. And here's a secret fact. While Trodelvy and its peers are making headlines in breast cancer, the underlying technology, antibody-drug conjugates, is being tested in dozens of other cancers right now. Lung, bladder, prostate, even tough-to-treat brain tumors. The breakthroughs we see in TNBC could soon ripple across the entire oncology field, rewriting the rules not just for one disease, but for our entire approach to cancer. So next time you hear a story of a new cancer drug, look deeper. Behind the jargon and headlines, it could be the first chapter in the next medical revolution. If you found this deep dive helpful, or if you learned something that could help you or someone you care about, help us spread the word. Share this video, leave a comment with your questions, and subscribe for more cutting-edge updates from the front lines of medical science. And don't forget, hope is not